Hey kids, welcome to Distance Learning with Chef Ben. Today we are in my house. We're at my kitchen at home. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna make baked mac and cheese today because that was requested by one of our student families. And you're gonna get to see a little bit of what goes on here in my kitchen at my house. Sorry, the light's gonna change all goofy as we go through here. It's easy enough for me to spin all the way around in my kitchen and give you the whole tour. See my super fancy filming setup back there. This is pretty much the entire place. This is where all the magic at my house happens. So, in a minute here, we'll get into the recipe. Alright kids, the first step of this recipe, and you can do this pretty much any time in advance that you want to, is boiling your pasta. So, I don't have macaroni at my house, and a lot of us are facing these kind of issues right now where we kind of don't want to go to the grocery store, right? But I have penne, and when it comes right down to it, pasta is pasta. If you are substituting something for macaroni, you want to pick something like this, something that has a hole in the middle of it and isn't like a long noodle pasta. Now we're going to make our sauce. So we start with butter. We're going to let that melt. There are a couple of nice things about this. You likely have all of these things at your house. Also, this is gluten-free. Remember, this is a recipe that all you have to do is change out the breadcrumbs for gluten-free breadcrumbs, usually made out of a rice flour, and change out the pasta for a gluten-free pasta. And then this recipe, automatically gluten-free. Now, our butter's all melted. We're going to add our cream. Half and half, pardon me. We don't necessarily want this part to boil, because if it boils, a couple of things are going to happen. First off, the half and half is going to separate. It's going to turn into kind of like homemade cheese, which sounds great on the surface of it, but that's not really what we want. The other thing is that if this is too hot, when we add our actual cheese, then that cheese will split. It'll divide itself up into the dairy and the oil. And you can see from our butter, we have a little bit of oil on top here, but that's not a big deal. We want that. If our cheese splits, if our cheese breaks, that's not going to be so good for us. Our half and half and butter mixture is just starting to move a little bit, so we're going to add our cheese and our Parmesan cheese. We're going to stir this gently just until the cheese melts. At this stage, you want to stir constantly, because as soon as the cheese does start to melt, it'll settle to the bottom and it'll burn. You do not want that. Just like that. Once the cheese is melted, all good. All right, kids, let's be eminently clear about one thing. I tend to wash most of the dishes in my house, so I'm going to be spraying out my pan before I put anything in here. I don't want anything to stick, because when it goes in the oven and then it heats up and it becomes our baked mac and cheese, what sticks burns, and we don't want any of that. Pro tip. So, what do we have? We have our cooked pasta. We have our cheese sauce. You can, in the interests of making not as many dishes as possible, just mix your pasta right in here. At work, of course I would be wearing gloves. Here at the house, I'm cooking to an audience I'm very familiar with. At this stage, all we're looking to do is coat our pasta with our sauce. It's going to be a little lumpy, it's going to be a little weird looking, and it's going to be a little thinner than you think it should be, the sauce that is. That's okay. Keep in mind we're baking it, so whatever goes into the oven is going to get dried out a little bit. 1 pound of pasta. It's going to feed 6 to 8 people depending on what else you're going to be making. So vegetables, if you're going to have any sort of a protein with this. And it looks like that. The last piece of the puzzle, breadcrumbs. You need fewer than you think you do, because really we're putting starch on top of starch here. And all we want to have is just a little bit of extra crispiness to make it fun. These will also brown up in the oven a little bit, and that'll be delightful. So, to recap, cook your pasta ahead, make your sauce, toss it with your cooled pasta, put it into your well-sprayed down pan, throw some breadcrumbs on it, goes into the oven, 350 degrees, about 40 minutes, and will come out bubbly and a little crispy on top and fabulous.